For me, 100%, I've changed. In terms of like, I think from where we started, I definitely wasn't as equipped in my understanding of like the history, and even without that understanding, I still had an inkling like, yo, we haven't been done right. But the journey um, has brought me to a space where, fortunately and unfortunately, my awareness of the game at hand is very vivid now compared to where when it was, which should be, you know, you should be lifelong learning. And I've realized the state of play and the war we're in at the moment. It's a war. So, and the psychology of this war is about submission to what we already know, and not basically not allowing space for us to unpack and create new pathways of learning. So for me, I think I have to speak like how I speak now because I realize that there's not many who are like, we've had so many conversations off camera with other people we know, all of that kind of stuff around like the counter narrative, because people still don't get it, to be fair. They think that we want to speak because we want to speak. No. If I had my way, no, I don't even want to speak on any of it. But there's a responsibility for me now that you're not getting anything else. So we kind of have to speak until you get something else, or you get a few more people who are actually talking up the thing, because we have to identify the enemy. Number one, you have to identify the enemy, and all we're doing is helping for them to identify who is their enemy. They thought the enemy was their neighbor or this person or someone in their family or that person. It's like, well, if you go deeper than that, and if you check the history and then you check the now and you check what's coming, there's like, nothing's not really changed. So if we go on the surface of like George Floyd, and I remember you saying this, but he's like, what, you lot only catching on now? It's like, and people are still being George Floyd. You know, we're getting people who are still dying. Like, how many reminders do you actually need to realize that these people are not your friends? So we're living, and I think part of that is obviously where we live, but also part of it's not. So there's a part of it which is like, okay, if we was in Africa or in our other homelands in the Caribbean or whatever, we would have a better quality of life. Yes, to some degree, but we have to also remember the mindset that's filtered into a lot of minds in that space as well, because people still, it doesn't make, you know what it is, bro, it doesn't make sense to me now that it didn't before, but it's so much more clearer now that we are still begging to people who've taken our ancestors away from their land, and we're like, accept us, please accept us, even though you put chains on our family and our ancestors and continue to chain us psychologically. So you're like, what the fuck? So it's like realizing like, yeah, you've been subjected to some crazy stuff without even knowing before you've even born. Sometimes. So it's warfare. It's just psychological warfare. It's not only psychological, it's spiritual, it's intellectual, it's emotional, it's physical. Every kind of all you can think of, it's all. Like, it's just all in its entirety. They are attacking you from every, and like, we've had guests who talk about, like, we've had so many guests who talk about, yeah, but white people would, and we get that. We all know that there's good white people. We get it, but when we the way melanated people get put into a stereotype, you also have to kind of think to yourself, well, we get that, but who's benefiting here? They still can benefit. We can't. So they can be great white people all day long. You know, my mum, some of my friends, great white people, but you still uphold some of this shit, unfortunately, because of your language, because of, you know, your place in the system. You're not challenging these people to say, hey, yo, what about their reparations? So all of these parents who have mixed children, for instance, you should be fighting, like, listen, my kid needs reparations because he needs to learn where he's from, or she needs to learn where he's from, and you need to be able to unpack. You know, I'm not saying we can't communicate and socialize and all these things, but let's do it with meaning.
Yeah.
And let's not. I think what's been vivid for me as well is how clear, especially in the last like year and a bit, how clear it is that they don't want melanated people to have their own space. Like black love, for instance, is like white hate. It's like, why don't you want them to heal? Like, even if people were saying to, like, would say to me, like, bro, I know you're mixed race, but you look white to me. We don't want you. You know what I would do? Fair enough, because I understand the levels. I understand it. I'm not going to take it personally because I know, well, I need to do more work because there's still not. I still represent a level of a hierarchy. So that stuff there, I get it.
Yeah.
When people say, why is he invited to cook out? Yeah, why am I? I should be. I need to prove myself because I still, half of my family still represent this shit. Yeah, and I've seen it firsthand that, you know, my white side is not. They're not good people like that. That I've met anyway. You know, mum's good, but outside of that, yeah, you lot are part of the problem. So I've got to unpack that. But yeah, man, this thing is a real war, and I don't know how many reminders people need. Like, the reminders are daily, and I don't know. Like, I do feel like now we know enough. We need to go behind closed doors and just sit down and start to build, and start to make new ways. Like, let's get some. We know the issues now, innit? Like, let's get tangible.